Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Tin Dog Podcast. If you feel the need to contact me, and in fact please do, because I've got an awful feeling I'm just talking to myself, the email address is tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. Now in this episode I'm going to be talking about the Christmas special from this year, well actually from last year, because obviously if I'm talking about the Christmas special from this year, it hasn't even been made yet. No, this would be the 2006 Christmas special, The Runaway Bride, mainly because it's the one episode that leads up to the new series. Now, as you all know, Runaway Bride was on Christmas Day, and to be honest, it was one thing that a lot of people were really looking forward to, slightly more than anything else on Christmas Day. If you're one of these people, well, you know, perhaps you're taking your Doctor Who fandom a little bit too seriously. Yeah, right, I'm like trying to hide mine. Yeah, let's not tell anyone, shall we? Okay, you've got, well, with any review, we might as well start off with a potted synopsis for anyone who missed it. Of course, I can't actually imagine anyone who actually did miss it. But we've got the end of Doomsday, remade as the beginning of this episode. Now, obviously, we've got that classic zoom in, which appears to be used once or twice throughout the whole new series. You're in space, you look down at Earth, you look down, you zoom in. But instead of the dodgy council estate in London, you've got a church and Donna getting married, bless her, and you're going, great, it's Catherine Tate. Now, Catherine Tate, you might like, you might not, you might just think she's a collection of, I don't know, catchphrases and some red hair, but she is a good actress, I will admit this. I really liked her in Wild West with Dawn French, one of my favourite series. Of course, to list one of my favourite series, you'd be here all day. Anyway, you've got her getting married to Lance in a church, then she goes all golden and light, very similar to the bit where Billy goes all I'm the queen of the universe, or whatever she did at the end of Bad Wolf. And then she gets sucked into the TARDIS and appears. So basically you're seeing the end of Doomsday, but from the bride's point of view. Now, of course, they had remade it, so the lighting does look a bit different, mainly so that the lighting director gets his way. So, story-wise, you've got the Doctor and the bride as seen at the end of Doomsday. Now, from a writer's point of view, that's interesting because it sparked the audiences, but it also makes everyone just go, lovely, you've got a bride on board, now you have to solve it. And narratively, the Doctor then has to take her back to Earth and start the story again. So that's what he does, he brings her all the way back to Earth and tries to drop her off at her wedding. Now, a bit like Tegan, she's one of the few assistants, or let's call them companions, shall we? Sorry, I'm showing my age by saying assistants. Yeah, she's one of the few companions who doesn't actually want to be there. And like Tegan, of course, towards the end of the story, she won't, she changes her mind. However, unlike Tegan, I actually fancied Tegan. I really didn't fancy her in this story at all. Look, I was 11. Anyway, sorry, I'm not going to defend myself. Now, in this story, of course, it's a Christmas special. You've got an hour long. You've got to fill it with something. So your basic story is, why is the bride on board the TARDIS? Well, you find out eventually that it's something to do with this big red spider queen thing, played by the woman out of Recovery, which also had David Tennant in it. Odd to note that Recovery was made during David Tennant's only week off during the entire year. It took 6 minutes to make, and he spent all of it in a coma, apparently. You can tell I've seen Recovery. That's not a review, that's me being flippant. You can tell. For American listeners, I'm holding a sign that says I'm being sarcastic. Which brings me rather oddly to the pilot fish robots, which you saw last time, well, at the last Christmas special. They didn't really make much sense then, and they made even less sense this time. I mean, why would a creature like the Sycorax use sort of rent-a-robot killers. What, do you get them from IKEA? And then this other alien arachnid queen, again, somebody with lots of people on her side that she can do stuff with, hires rent-a-robot, and they always seem to dress themselves as Santa. It's rubbish. They are then my least favourite aspect of the whole story. Anyway, moving on. I suppose I could continue with the review, but basically I'm assuming you've seen it. You kind of got excited while you were watching it, thinking, oh, it's going to be great, this wonderful red demon queen thing scabbering around, it'll be really good. And then when she actually lands, she just kind of sits there, and the only CGI they've used is to make her blink, which, to be fair, looks great, but you kind of wanted more interaction rather than just a bit of shouting. Mind you, though, from a classic Doctor Who fan, a bit of shouting, hey, that's characterisation. So, you've basically got this underground lair Torchwood tried to burrow to the Earth's core. Wasn't quite sure about that whole burrowing to the Earth's core while underneath the Thames, because of the Thames barrier. It does seem a bit, let's use another landmark so that we can sell it around the world. Oh, look, we're going to invade. It's London again. What a surprise. Now, I know this series is trying to be less English-centric, but it is, let's leave Earth, please, if you don't mind. I'm sorry, I digress. This is a decent story, there's always a transition once you get rid of somebody who the audience associate with. When Billy leaves, you will get people going, oh, will the series be good enough? But then again, it survived Eggleston's leaving. We know that there's going to be a new companion. We know she's coming, and we know she's played by someone who's already been in an episode. That would never happen, Colin. Anyway, my only real issue with this story is, I have a couple of issues. And they are issues that only an anorak would have. For example, opening the TARDIS doors. The Doctor's got a scanner. Let's face it, in the McGann movie, he really did learn his lesson. Look outside the door before you go through it using the scanner, or you'll be shot. So just throwing the doors open and showing someone the universe, it's very nice, but you've got a scanner. You've had a scanner for 43 years. Use it. Of course, there's also the business at the end with the snow. Why does it have to snow at Christmas? I know Doctor Who snow last year was ash, and this year it was atmospheric nonsense. And of course the TARDIS taking off at the end like a rocket. It's not a rocket, it dematerialises. Let it go. Of course, my biggest issue with the whole thing was the car chase. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. I mean, really, what was the point of it? Especially when later on in the story, he materialises around Donna to save her. Couldn't he have just done that with the taxi? It would have looked genuinely cool just materialising the taxi inside the TARDIS and having it sort of drive round. Oh, it doesn't matter. I'm sorry. Russell's got a toy. He wanted to use it. It looked great. And as long as you put your brain in neutral and didn't really think about it, I know people are shouting, it's a kid's show, but then again, kids have got sense. So have we. Of course, there's the business with the Arachnid Queen herself. I mean, let's look at the history of Earth. We've got Earth as a big pile of dust. And then the Arachnid Queen parks her babies, and then the Earth forms. The Earth forms eventually, and then the Scoreth of Jaggeroth spaceships on board, and then that causes life to evolve. And then, of course, you've got the Mendragora, who's influencing us. Is there anything on Earth that hasn't had an alien influence? Oh, of course, there's the Daemons as well, which are not even remotely related to the creature in the pit from the last series, and so on. It gets to a point where there isn't a single piece of history that the Doctor or the Time Lords or some alien hasn't had a part in. It gets you so that you have to go around and read far too many reference books. Can we not have some of our own history? But anyway, I digress. So which aliens are the most important to history? Harry Hill at this point would say, fight! But let's not go there. Of course, deep down, the thing you really have to consider is, was it any good? I mean, it was a great bit of Saturday entertainment. Well, Christmas entertainment. It filled a nice hour. And of course, the complete highlight, for me, was the very end with the coming soon. But of course, as soon as you went online, the coming soon bit was taken apart. Everyone thought that the creatures, that they looked a bit like Sontarans. Everyone was going, oh, it's the Master, and so many other little bits of storyline The thing that I felt sorry for was, of course, Mark Gatiss. I mean, Mark Gatiss being in this series, I've always had him down as the 11th Doctor. I always kind of wanted a campaign, especially after his rather unfortunate incident on Doctor Who Night. And if anybody remembers that or wants to email me about it, because of course this is a clean podcast, I'll tell them about it via email. But then again, if he was to play the Doctor, he would become, well, you know the rest. I always thought he would make a fantastic Doctor with Mark. And of course, if he's in this as a villain, or a good guy, or something else, such a noticeable character, then it makes his chance of becoming the next Doctor slightly less. But then again, is he going to replace Russell one day? I'm sure his stories would show up under pressure, and I think he's a nice character. But anyway, I'd also digress, don't I, as always. The thing worthy of note, and most people didn't notice this, is something that cropped up in Torchwood, which was shown a few days later. In Torchwood, there was a big sign up that said, "Vote Saxon," on some of the windows. Now, there is something that you study at Film School, which is, if something appears lots of times, it's obviously important. Now, obviously, this has been milked a bit in the history of Doctor Who with Bad Wolf and then, yes, Torchwood. But in the Christmas Invasion, it's a tiny, tiny thing. But if you listen closely, as the tank's about to fire on the Christmas star over Bethlehem, London, he says, "Fire on the orders of General Saxon." So, as it's been mentioned twice, it looks like that's going to be an ongoing theme of the new series. Of course, we'll have to get back to you on that one. So, if this was a review, my review is I liked it. I'm looking forward to the new series. I am excited, although I may not sound it. And, well, I look forward to watching it and reporting with you on the Tin Dog Podcast. Thanks for listening.